Gameness is the willing to go on when all is lost. Picking the right bloodline for your needs. Episode 1. In this episode, I'm going to go over a couple of bloodlines and talk about why I would not pick a specific bloodline for a specific kennel for a specific reason. The first bloodline I'm going to mention is going to be the Redboy and Redboy offshoots. The Redboy bloodline originates in the Carolinas and is commonly accepted as the most game of all bloodlines. I'm not going to argue that with you. I don't care what you got to say. It's what's common knowledge. In the Redboy bloodline, these dogs are notorious for having rangy bodies, and typically it is accepted that these dogs can lack mouth when they are pure Redboy. There are always exceptions to the rule. But here we're talking about percentages. If you're going out to spend your hard-earned money, we're going to talk about the percentages of what you're probably going to get when you go for these dogs that are bred for the traits that are inherent in those strands. With the Redboy strand, typically you're not going to get it pure nowadays. And if you do, it's going to be heavily inbred. So you may have some genetic defects because in order to maintain the integrity of the breed, that's going to happen. Typically, what you are going to see is a variant of the Redboy blood. And some of the strands you're going to see are Redboy Jocko, Jeep Rascal Redboy, Redboy Jocko, Tombstone Bolio. Some famous names that you're going to see in your pedigree if you own a Redboy dog are going to be Cottingham, Cruz, Mims, Sammy the Arab, and a few others. But here I'm not here to just mention names, and I'm not trying to throw people out there. I simply want you to realize that if I see these names, Marlowe, if I see these names, Kittens, you're going to see those names if you have a Redboy dog somewhere in your pedigree, typically. So if you want a dog that's going to run all day, these dogs are typically loud too. If you want a dog that's going to run all day and probably be a little on the less intelligent side, but more just athletic side, your jocks, get you a Redboy dog to start off with, or a Redboy variant. The next bloodline I want to kind of go over is kind of the opposite side of the coin, is the Eli strand. Eli dogs typically are known for being barnstorming dogs and having mouth. These are your berserkers. They bite really hard, but sometimes lack gameness or wind. Whereas the Redboy dogs typically, or it's understood that sometimes they lack mouth. Sometimes the Eli dogs have been considered to lack gameness or wind. They're full of ability and very durable. Some of the crosses you'll see with the Eli will be Eli to Carver, as well as Eli to Bolio. Some of the famous names you'll see in these pedigrees will be the Boudreaux, as well as Garner blood, Cates, and a few others. Some of the notable Eli crosses or Eli Carver crosses are Bully Son, Eli Jr., Honey Bunch, and Chinaman. The next bloodline I want to talk about is the Bolio strand. Bolio dogs were bred up, and there's quite a lot of controversy behind the Bolio dogs. So when you hear about Bolio dogs, you won't see them as much as the Redboy Eli strands, which are more popular. But you will see a dog with Bolio listed on there, or Bolio Tombstone. These dogs were bred by Mr. Pat Patricks. And with these strands, what they're typically understood to bring, or what I understand them to bring, is heavy ability as far as smarts. They wrestle really well, and they're extremely athletic, strong dogs. This would be that guy you don't want to get locked up with in a fight in real life. He's got hands, and he can grapple. That you're MMA fighter. That's kind of what these Bolio dogs bring in. A lot of times you're going to see bulls as well as Patricks in your pedigrees when you have these dogs. Now keep in mind, I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash because I missed a bunch of names and things like that. I'm just trying to give you some very basic stuff. This information is not for you super dogmen. This information is for somebody who literally just wants a starting point. Now, we've talked about these three big names, and there's a bunch of other names that were before and after. These are just three well-respected lines of animals that if you went in and got a very, very high percentage one of these dogs, you would have a very, very good baseline with consistent traits that you can build from. Because when you are breeding these animals, what you're actually doing is creating your own recipe for the dog that you want. Understanding the traits that the dogs possess will allow you to build the bloodline or the animals that you can work with. There are some terms that I also want to share with you in this post right here that will help you understand why it is important to understand your dog and the lineage behind your dog or your pedigree. The term scatterbred can be used for dogs that were just bred for the purposes of typically making money. A scatterbred dog can be purebred, but you can have so many different dogs mixed in there that you don't know what kind of traits you're going to kick out. A lot of times people say this is where man biters come from. Some scatterbred dogs have really, really hybrid vigor, but the F1 and F2 offspring of these dogs cannot reproduce because it's pulling from so many different genetic pools that you can't replicate this. So scatterbred is something you got to watch out for. Another thing you have to look for is paper hung animals. What paper hanging means is that as a breeder, if I say that my female dog was bred to my male dog, and I submit it for my registry to send me the paperwork back that I would give you when you purchase it, I could lie and say that two dogs that were not bred were bred because they have a higher value and try to make money. Or I simply want to inhibit you from being able to create the same dog that I created because I don't want you to have the actual real blood. This is quite common for peddlers to do, as well as really, really competitive dog men. But that's for another video. So now that you've decided that you want a dog, you want a game dog, and you understand exactly what it is that you want in regard to a bloodline and the things to avoid, the pitfalls to avoid, you also want to look at things like how much do they typically cost. For pure animals, I have seen them range anywhere from a gift for just helping out a dog man or just having a dog man mentor to 10 grand for a really, really well-bred, pure version of any of these dogs that I just mentioned. Sometimes they go for more than that if they have accolades, but accolades is for another video. Other things that you're going to notice with these dogs is that with these dogs, they attract a lot of negative attention. So you want to go to a reputable breeder who's not going to have your name tied up in some crazy mess. I think that's enough information for this video. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Coming up in part 2, I guess the thing to discuss would be going with a kennel partner, setting up a kennel, and registries that I would suggest. Thank y'all. Like, follow, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content.